Helen Parkhurst was born in 1887 in Durant, Wisconsin. At the age of 20, she graduated from Wisconsin State Teachers College. That was in 1907. In her early years of teaching, she began to experiment with her ideas of individualized instruction, self-reliance, and pupil-led classrooms. There's a nice story about her. When faced with a classroom full of farmers' kids, she enlisted their help in unbolting all the desks from the floor to allow for a more free and cooperative learning environment, and so began her adventure in shaking up the status quo of teacher-centered learning. Helen Parkhurst was inspired by Dewey and Montessori, but she was also an inspiration to them. She took Dewey's naturalistic ideas of task and problem-based learning, rooted in a collaborative and democratic ideal, and intertwined it with Montessori's humanistic yet child-centered approach. I personally find her vision to be inspiring as well. The motto of the Dalton School is to go forth unafraid while engaging with the tasks and problems that students' lives will present to them in the natural course of events. I'll talk about this a bit more later on, but Parkhurst's primary innovation, different than that of the other progressive educators, was to give students the responsibility of their own educational process. In 1914, Parkhurst enrolled in the International Montessori Teachers Training in Rome. At that time, it was being taught by Maria Montessori herself. Parkhurst became a disciple, and Montessori thought a lot of her as well. When she returned to the U.S., Parkhurst established a Montessori teacher training school in New York. For a time, she also served as the director of all Montessori schools in the United States. After leaving the Montessori organization, Parkhurst devoted herself to developing her own methods of teaching. The laboratory plan, as it was called, was first put into effect as an experiment in Dalton, Massachusetts in 1916 near the benefactor's residence, the high school near the benefactor's residence. Helen Parkhurst said, if the children had their own independence, they would excel and succeed. She also noticed the benefits of having older children helping the younger ones. In 1919, Parkhurst moved this school to New York City. The Dalton School, still open today, was originally called the Children's University School, and it stressed that children learn more effectively in an environment which permits freedom of choice and allows the youngsters to progress at their own pace. The main reason for founding the Dalton School is to have children learn at their own pace and also to budget their own learning time. They should also be informed and sensitive, engaged citizens as members of a community. The Dalton Plan teaches students how to budget their time, seek out faculty, and take control of their own educational destinies. Specifically, Parkhurst had these objectives: to tailor each student's program to his or her needs, interests, and abilities, but also to promote both independence and dependability, and so to enhance the student's social skills and sense of responsibility towards others. Parkhurst developed a three-part plan that continues to be the structural foundation of the Dalton education. This is the house, the assignment, and the laboratory. A student's house is their homeroom group, and the house advisor guides and assists each student in planning and carrying out their own learning process. In the early years, called the first program, and middle school, the house is comprised of students the same age. But in the high school, the houses include students from every grade level, and so begins to become a microcosm of the larger school community and the world. The assignment is a contract between the student and the teacher, where they define common obligations for their daily classwork, as well as their long-term projects and homework planning. The Dalton assignments themselves are uniquely structured to promote this internalization and refinement of time management and organizational skills, while it offers students opportunities to develop their individual strengths and address their specific needs. The assignment is introduced in the early years, the first program, but it increases in scope and complexity throughout middle and high school years. The laboratory refers to one-on-one and small group sessions between the students and teachers. This augments the traditional classroom instructions by combining study, research, and collaboration. Students and teachers schedule these labs at specified times throughout the school day, and this is where they can really go in depth and discuss assignments, expand on questions of interest, and clarify issues or explore new facets of a topic they want to pursue. In the high school, there are special rooms for each subject area, and that gives emphasis to this independent interaction between the faculty and students. In 1922, Parkhurst published Education on the Dalton Plan, which was translated in 58 languages. During the 1920s and 30s, she traveled and gave talks to teachers, policymakers around the world. She appeared often on network radio and programs in the early days of television. Much later, in 1943, she went on to earn her master's degree in education from Yale University, and she also remained headmistress of the New York City Dalton School until her retirement in the 60s. Here's her publication list, starting with 1922 Education on the Dalton Plan, founding her school in the early years of her school, and up until around the time of her retirement in 1962. The Dalton Plan has been adopted around the world as part of the American Progressive Movement, along with Dewey, Steiner, and Montessori. The influence she had during her career was broad and spanned internationally. There is no certainty regarding the exact numbers of Dalton schools today, but there are schools around the world. And there are also 400 Dalton schools in the Netherlands. In 1931, saw the first Dalton Association established here in the Netherlands, and in 1957, she even won the Oranje Nassau Medal awarded by Queen Juliana herself. Here's a list of references used in making this presentation. I really enjoyed finding all about Helen Parkhurst and what she did for education. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show.